Serious. What is the most creepy thing you saw while on a walk? Not safe for work. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Heard a snarl or cry and turned around to see a beaver the size of a fucking bear hauling ass up a grassy hill slapping its tail. It was so fat, its fat ass was jiggling, and it turned to me and my girlfriend and made a weird sound before huffing and puffing away. Creepy, because I'd never seen a beaver that close and thought it was going to attack us. A white cloud approximately 6 feet tall and 12 to 18 inches wide floating across the road from one side to the other and never distorting in shape. When we got to the place where it crossed, there was the distinct smell of something decomposing. Dog, deer, other. I was walking through the city center in the town that I live in. I saw a guy walk out of a shop and get knocked down by 2 other guys. They kicked the shit out of the guy on the floor and took a little baggie away. I ran to the guy and called the police. While waiting, the guy started screaming and clawing at his face, moaning about something being taken away from him and that he needs to run from the police, otherwise the people will come back and attack him. Very unsettling. My sister and I were almost kidnapped, I'm sure of it. We weren't quite teenagers yet and still looked younger than we actually were. This creepy guy stopped us and asked if we were missing a dog. We said no. He asked, "Are you sure? Could you at least come into my garage and take a look?" We said no again, and then he jokingly half-begged like, "Come on, just come in here and look." I still don't know why we didn't think that was some kind of red flag. We just continued on our walk and never told anyone. I used to walk a certain trail quite often, but had been getting creepy feelings a few weeks before this happened. I walked past this one decrepit house with a crappy shed one morning and happened to see a guy crouched in the bushes watching me. I booked it home and began walking a new route and switching up my schedule. I also began taking my gun with me. This happened when I was walking to a train station late at night. From a distance, I saw a man trying to hide from people walking by. It looked like he was doing this with the purpose of possibly robbing someone. His behavior scared me. Everyone who saw him seemed to go across the street. He had his back to me. I had to go down that street to get to the station and didn't want to take the long way round. I ran as fast as I could as his action was focused elsewhere. I saw him try to run after me, but I was too far ahead of him and made it to the station where the people were around. Very scary. Walking through the woods circa 1995 with no lights. On the path, a red LED started following me. I started running. It did too. It was darting around like Predator. I ended up hoofing it through the brush back to the main road. I never found out what or who it was. Someone got shot and killed. Happened while I was walking my dog in the morning through the trail of a field attached to an elementary school at 7 a.m. on a Tuesday. Happened about 50 feet from me. Shooter looked right into my eyes afterwards. I just hit the floor. Thankfully, he left me alone. I had a churchyard behind my house. It was basically a shortcut to go to Tesco at the time. I was in there at night coming home. I had made munchies at midnight, no weed. I was just a fat kid. So there was straight path past the church graves. Either side I was walking down there. I got about halfway and heard running behind me, coming right towards me. I fully shat myself. It was gone, midnight, so I ran as fast as I could, literally dolphin dived over my fence and went inside my house. I couldn't sleep that night, literally have nightmares over it still. There are periods and commas. While vacationing in Medellin, Colombia, while on a tour, I saw a drunk or drugged guy on the floor. He was sweating and this lady kept pulling his hair and wants him to get up, I suppose. When we came back from the tour, there was the crime scene tape and that guy was out. He was on the floor unresponsive. My aunt told me that if there's a crime scene tape, that means he's either extremely hurt, injured, or dead. Saw a creepy homeless man standing behind a tree from my peripheral vision. Then I looked at him. Looked like a dead body got out of its coffin and started wandering around. It was about 9 p.m. on a winter evening, so pitch black and lonely. Very spooky. I'm sure he was harmless, he just looked uber creepy. I was raised in the Irish countryside, at the bottom of a mountain with a lot of forest trails. I was on a walk with my mom and our dog, and we decided to take a side path we hadn't been on before to check it out. It wasn't too secluded, so we thought it was okay. The path was branching off from the larger road that ran through the area. It was all fine and well until we reached the end of the trail and saw a man in a tracksuit standing there in front of an entrance to a field the trail joined to. He didn't say hello or anything, which was strange. He just stared at us as we walked. It was at that moment we spotted what was in his hand, a big, heavy metal golf club. And let me tell you, there was no way he was playing golf out there. At that moment, our dog had just started to approach him to say hi, and he lifted the golf club as if to hit her, and he yelled, "Get away!" We called our dog back and abruptly turned around and pretty much half ran back to our car at the start of the trail. We were terrified the whole time that he'd come up behind us and whack us over the head with that golf club, but thankfully, he didn't seem to follow. I have no idea what he was doing up there. My mom thought he could be hiding out up there as there was a big drug operation raided nearby recently, but I have no idea. He could have just been some weirdo, but he gave me really bad vibes. We definitely didn't explore unfamiliar paths again. My girlfriend and I were in the mall. Counts as a walk, right? And there was a claw machine in the middle of the hallway. There was a mirror in the corner of it and in the back, but the back was covered with the prizes and such, like a mountain. We were walking past it, and I happened to look at it just the right angle that I'd see myself staring back at me through the mirror and almost had a heart attack. I didn't realize it was a mirror. I thought it was a window because of the mirror on the other side making it look like a window. We had to stop for a couple of minutes while I regained my strength to move on. Haha. A racially caricatured cloth dummy bound by its neck to a flagpole outside a Quality Inn. I called the Quality Inn when I got home and told them someone had vandalized their property. The next day, it was still fucking there. One time I was walking back to my apartment for my lunch break. I do this every day around noon, and I usually take the same route right through my city's downtown area, which is a really safe part of town. I'm walking past an art museum, and there's a dumpster in the alley behind the building. I see a guy pop his head up from behind the dumpster, look me in the eye, and just start screaming in absolute horror. These weren't just weirdo junkie screams, these were blood-curdling screams. After a few seconds, the guy just ran away while still screaming. I'm used to strange people doing strange things downtown, but this was something else. It really unsettled me. I was out on a midnight stroll through the forest with a friend of mine, just walking around, no direction or destination in mind. We came to a small opening with a huge boulder in the center of it, and when looking at it through the corner of my eye, I was sure I could see a floating face right by the side of it. I told my friend about it, and he confirmed that he saw the same thing, so we both decided to take a picture of it. As we looked through the images once we got back, there was no floating face visible in the picture I took, but the photo on his phone showed a shadowy white face floating by the side of the boulder, just at the exact spot we thought we saw it before. Now, I'm pretty sure it was just some weird-ass result of the lighting and the angle of the camera, and you cannot convince me otherwise, but let's just say that he deleted the picture immediately. Why delete it? Walking around a park counts as a walk, right? I was with my little sister, and we were in this dried-up riverbed-looking area. There was barely any grass or trees around, and we saw some guy pacing around on top of a hill, and it sounded like he was talking to himself. It didn't seem like he knew we were near him, though I wasn't sure as I was trying to not pay attention to him. He was obviously homeless. His clothes and hair were messy and dirty. I remember seeing pants and a bag hanging on a fence near where he was, so maybe those were his. I didn't like being near this guy because of his behavior, and not to mention that we were the only ones on that side of the park. When he started occasionally screaming to the sky, that's when me and my little sister decided then it was a good time to head back to the populated part of the park. Dude was obviously on something, and so if he noticed us two young girls alone in a dried riverbed, I don't know what could have happened. So right after the first lockdown happened, I had to move back in with my parents. I'd been taking care of my grandpa, but his dementia had gotten bad enough to a point I wouldn't be safe living there. The last day I lived there, he had taken a gun and shot a ton of glass both of us owned. When I got to my parents, I was stressed as hell, so I started walking the dog separately. When it came to walking the last one, she was also the darkest, I realized it was almost 11, but I was mad enough it didn't matter. So I walked her down near the community college, about 8 miles from my parents' house, and turned back. there's this huge dark SUV, and it swerves in an attempt to hit my parents' dog. So I turned around and yelled for the guy to come back and actually hash it out. The car flipped around, but just kept taking pictures of us. He did 4 laps total before leaving. I took a detour home in case he was still following. Weird.